Hello and welcome to this new interview session. Today we are having Krishna with us. Krishna was there earlier also for the HTML CSS JavaScript round. Now this is the React round, which he wants to attend again. Okay, Krishna, can you introduce yourself to all our viewers?
Good morning, sir. My name is Krishna. Here I am for interview. Uh, so the that's all.
Tell us about your experience also. Till now, what you have worked on, which technology you
Uh,
have worked.
I have learned about the Mund stack and uh, right now I am here for interview. So there I have done BTech. So
Okay.
right now, sir, I am nervous. So
Okay, that's okay. Okay, so since this is a React round, so
hmm.
I'll just ask you some basics questions on React first, and then we will move. Okay, so before coming to React, can you tell me what is JSX first? Let's understand what is JSX, what we understand about JSX.
Sir, in React we use JSX. So
Mm-hmm.
JSX lets us write code, uh, uh, write JavaScript inside HTML.
Okay.
So in React, we make components and we return HTML code.
Hmm.
Uh, JSX provides JSX gives us the access to
Mm-hmm.
use the JavaScript
Okay.
inside our HTML code. Basically, this is JSX.
So then how it renders, like say suppose I write HTML in normal HTML is a JavaScript kind of project. I write HTML, it get rendered in the DOM. Here how it renders. So because you are telling that there is HTML inside JavaScript, but JavaScript doesn't understand anything, everything inside JavaScript is object, right? Now how this HTML is rendered as an object in React?
Sir, in React.js, React.js may React.js a functionality. React.js makes for example, I have written HTML code inside the function.
Okay.
So React.js automatically convert those functions and add those elements in a DOM. Uh,
Okay.
uh, Basically, there is a method in React.js. We can create the element and tags in React.js by using react.create element like this thing, and we can add the child element to parent through this process. But this is very lengthy and hard thing. So DSS gives functionality to easily implement HTML code inside JavaScript code. So this makes our work easier.
Okay, so you are telling that instead of the object format, if you write in JSS format, instead of using the create element, we can write JSX so that internally it changes the HTML whatever is
Yes,
there into create using create root. Basically, it converts that particular HTML tag or element into a DOM like object.
yes, yes,
Then it gets rendered. This is what you are saying, correct?
yes. There is some library in React that will convert those
Hmm.
things and that will automatically add those things in a DOM.
Okay.
That's hmm.
Okay, so you have already worked in React. Can you tell me few important features in React? Simple few important features in React.
So first of all, first important feature of React is React.js is fast. It uses virtual DOM, and it in React.js we can make the component
Mhm.
so that are reusable.
Okay.
And React.js is a single page web application. So
Okay.
everything in React.js that is in one div means one single page. So component changes in only one single page.
Okay.
So we can easily update our data, create and mm, do stuff in React easily. So this thing makes our work
Those things we can do
easier.
in other frameworks also, right? So if I compare React with Angular, I can create single page application is in Angular. I can create reusable components in Angular. But how then the React, how is React unique or how does React help?
So
How it is better than Angular in that case?
basically, React is maybe faster than Angular
Okay.
because it uses virtual DOM. So it copies the real DOM and it uses the virtual DOM whenever we update and whenever create something in our DOM. So it changes in a virtual DOM, and that gives whenever there is a change in virtual DOM, and so there is no re-rendering of whole thing. Only those stuff will change that we need to update. That's
So
the process, I think.
so you are saying that the DOM that is formed in Angular, it's a real DOM, but what it is formed in React is a virtual DOM.
Hmm.
So
Virtual
whatever you
DOM.
update, only those portions get updated, other thing doesn't get updated. So you are saying that this
Change
makes it
in a
fast.
DOM is due to the change in a DOM is due to the change in a virtual DOM, and that gives the signal to the real DOM, and only those things changed that we need to change in a real DOM. So there is no re-render of whole things in our web page.
So you said something called real DOM, something called virtual DOM. Do you know
Yes.
what is shadow DOM?
Shadow DOM.
Yes.
No, I don't know about it.
Have you heard about shadow DOM?
No.
Have you heard about web components?
Web components in React.js.
Not in React JS as a concept. What is web components?
Mm, I haven't heard about, but I think web components mm, mm, are the components in a web page.
No, it's not the right answer. Web
No.
components are generally used to create, platform agnostic components. That means I create a component for only for React or only for Angular or only for Vue.js, right? If you create a web component using web components, if you create a component, it can be used either in Angular or React or Vue. Okay, it's kind of
Mhm.
a reusable kind in different kind of environment will work. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so now you said about virtual component, virtual DOM, and you said about the web. We discussed about Shadow. Shadow DOM is kind of same using web component. Basically, uses Shadow DOM to create these kind of reusable components. Okay. Now, do
Mhm.
you know what is the difference between CSR and SSR, client side rendering and server side rendering in React?
Yes, I have used the API, and I have means client side rendering and server side rendering.
What is the difference and what it is? First of all, tell me what is client side rendering, what is server side rendering. First of all.
So client side rendering is server side rendering. In server side rendering, we use APIs and we request server to get data. We make HTTP request
Hmm.
and we get data from server. And in client side rendering, browse in client side rendering, for example, I am making some UI in a React, and I'm not calling any API, and so that will automatically my code will run in a client side. For
Okay.
example, there is simple HTML code,
Mm-hmm.
so that will run in a client side.
Now, what is rendering here? I mean, rendering means what? You are rendering your React application from the server, you are rendering a React application from client.
Hmm.
So, what is the difference? That is what I'm asking.
Client side rendering and server side rendering.
Hmm. See, rendering means you
Mm,
are displaying something. Maybe you are displaying React,
displaying something.
React
Hmm.
application. You are displaying showing the React application. You are rendering the React application with the browser from the client only. That means from your local only. And from the server, also you can do. Basically, React uses two different rendering engines. Okay. So there is a particular
Hmm.
rendering engine. If you want to render from server, there is a particular rendering engine when you are rendering it from client. Okay. So when
Hmm.
you used a rendering technique of server side rendering, then you use that kind of server. Basically, what it does is that it takes your React application and makes a simple template out of it, and then you can render
Hmm.
the application. But do you know what is the advantages of SSR over CSR? What it helps us to do?
SSL and CSS are
Hmm.
basically we can render our whole page from a server also.
That
So
explanation I gave, but what is the advantage?
mm,
If you are rendering from server, what happens? I mean, what is the advantage of it?
advantage of rendering from server.
Hmm.
Mm, it is more secure, I think.
No, you are just doing blind guesses, but thing is,
Mm,
it will make the rendering faster. That is one, and it is
mm-hmm,
you can do the SEO very fast. That is two, and second is it
mm-hmm,
is easier to code in one folder only. I mean, you can use that. So earlier we were using all those things. So those are the few more advantages. There are a lot of other advantages. Just do a Google search, okay? Because this is an
mm-hmm.
important interview question. Difference between CSR and SSR and how SSR is advantages over CSS. Okay, this is a
Mm-hmm.
very good interview, important, very good and very important interview questions. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So do you know what is the difference between a, okay, let me frame this question nicely. Do you know what is the difference between functional component and class-based component? And where class-based component can be used and at that place function will not be of good use, but class-based component will be of good use.
So basically, I have used only function-based component in a React, but I know little bit about the class component.
Okay.
So we use hooks in a functions component, but in class-based component, there are some other process
Okay.
for things, and I basically it is much easier to code in a functional component than a class component, I think.
Okay.
And
How do you tell? How can you tell that it is more easier to work in functional and not class based?
because I have seen the code in a class component
Okay.
and function component, so I was confused in a class-based component, and I found that function-based component are more easier because um, there are hooks make easier to implement our code in a function-based component, and class-based component we do not use hooks.
No, in class-based component also you can use state and you can use everything. Whatever you can do in functional, you can do everything
Mm-hmm.
in class-based. And additional advantages in class-based component, there are life cycle hooks are so not the
Mm-hmm.
life cycle methods are there. Life cycle methods have very good real life help other than the used it. So hooks are having a good advantage, but
Mm-hmm.
methods are also having a very good advantage. But there are certain conditions in which functional component will not have come of good use. Only the
Mm-hmm.
class-based component is used. Okay. One practical example I can give you is when you are setting up error boundaries. So suppose something happens in your code, something breaks down, then the entire component will go away, right? I mean, it will go for
Mm-hmm.
loss, it will break, right? In that case, for creating error boundaries, you can use only class-based component. You can't use, functional component to create an error boundary. You can't use. Still now, not the, in the latest version of React, it's not there. Okay, that is one thing. Okay, you have to remember.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when class-based component will come into good use. One more thing is that if you are using internal state, then you can use kind of with either class or functional, both has the states that you can do it. But if you want to
Mm-hmm.
specific methods, then you have to use class space. If you don't want to use method, you want to use hooks, then you can use your components like functional way of writing components. Do you know what
Mm-hmm.
is memoization in Reactor, or a memoization as a generic concept? What is memoization basically?
So memoization is basically used for the performance in a
Hmm.
React. Uh, we use the hooks, memoization hooks like use memo, use callback. So it
Hmm.
prevent our web page from re-rendering of the things, unnecessary re-rendering
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
the components. So
Okay.
that's why
That is,
we use.
you are telling using React Memo, you will unnecessary rendering of the component. But what it does, basically, what
So
it does.
basically, it uses the process of caching
Mm-hmm.
behind the scene. It uses the process of caching. So it uh, basically whenever there is a change in one component and we don't want to render other component, there is no change in the other component.
Mm.
So, but if some component is changing in my web page, so other component is also re-rendering, unnecessary rendering. So
Mm.
we can use those hooks
Mm.
for preventing the re-rendering. So they use memoization.
Hmm. No, you are
Hmm.
saying that React memo. So I'll tell you the correct answer of this. First of all, what is memoization? Memoization means you are remembering something. Okay.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
what you are remembering? You are remembering that something I have done earlier that I want to do it now. So I don't want to
Hmm.
go through the same process of creation of these variables multiple times, right? So
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
JavaScript, there is something called closures, right? What is the
Hmm.
function of what is the use of closures? Closures, what will do? Closures are responsible for memoization.
Hmm. Hmm.
They'll remember the steps that I have done earlier so that I can use it later. Right?
Hmm.
That's the concept of memoization. That is one thing. Second, in React, we are using a use memo as well as we are using React memo. So if you are using a React memo, then what happens is that what you were said that you have to, it will not render the component until that means
Hmm.
it remembers that okay, I have already rendered a component, everything is there. If nothing major change in the props of state, I will not render it. So state if it change, it will render, but props if only when the props change, then only it render. That is the concept of React memo.
Hmm.
Okay? So both you to remember what is memoization, what is the concept of memoization, and how can you use memoization in React. Okay.
Hmm. Okay.
So now tell me what is the difference between state and props.
So state and props. So basically props, we give the props and props are used for passing data,
Okay.
and uh, state, we use state for storing
Hmm.
data and for changing data.
Okay. Correct. But
Hmm.
what the state provides that props doesn't provides. Right? State
So,
has particular use case. See, state can be used for some things which props can't be
hmm,
used for.
hmm,
Props can
hmm,
be
hmm,
used for something which state can't be used for. Correct?
hmm,
That is
hmm.
the difference you have to tell where state can be used, where props can be used. Yeah.
So yeah, by state we can store data and we can manipulate, we can change our data in the component. But by using states, we cannot pass data from one component to another component. We have to use props to
Hmm.
pass the data. So from parent to child and child to subchild. That's the
Hmm.
flow of passing the props. So is the basic difference that for passing data we use props, and for storing data and for changing our data in a in a component we use states. So for
See,
passing the
basically,
state
thing is,
from
state can be used to, it is a localized state or localized
hmm,
kind of data for a component, and state can be used to re-render a component. Props can't be used to re-render a component. It can be used, right?
yes,
Props
yes.
only can be used for data transfer from parent to child, child to parent, like that.
Hmm.
But
Whenever
props,
we have change our data, re-rendering happens
yes, and
in a state.
props in the same component is not editable. You can only use it. Have you ever edited props?
Hmm.
You've never ever edited, right? So when you after you passing, you
Yes.
use it. You never edit it.
Hmm.
Those are the few differences that you have to remember.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So you know what is synthetic events in Reactor? What are synthetic events in React?
Synthetic event. No, I don't.
You have used on click,
Synthetic event.
on change,
Yes, yeah, I have used, but I have not heard about this word
synthetic event.
synthetic. Yeah, I have used on click, on change, and these on submit
Hmm.
these
So
events.
basically, synthetic event, what it does is, see,
Mm-hmm.
internally on change, if you write, you see the first letter is on is small, and the next letter is capital letter. In JavaScript,
Mm-hmm.
everything is small. On change, on click, everything is a small letter. But in React, on is small and C will be capital. On about, on change, on click, everything is C. Basically, these are
Mm-hmm. Yes.
synthetic events. So what the meaning of synthetic event is that React created a wrapper around these original JavaScript events, and then
Mm-hmm.
they created synthetic events. So why it is synthetic event? Because it's a kind of a wrapper around the native events. But why they
Mm-hmm.
had to create? Because you see, events it doesn't behave same in different browsers. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't behave the same. So to create a uniqueness of this behavior, they created the synthetic events. That is one thing. Second is one
Mm-hmm.
more question can be coming. What is the difference between class and class names? And why in
Mm-hmm.
React we use class name, not class? Do you have the answer
Because
to this as well?
JavaScript understand the class name.
Okay. Yeah. Why? Why you can't use class for styling? We are using class names. Other thing you can use ID and everything you can, but for class we are using class name, not class.
Because uh, we use class name because JavaScript understand the class name. Sometimes there may be confusion whenever we use class, so there may be confusion in a name. JavaScript clearly understands this is a class name, but but in our code there may be, if we have given the class, so there may be confusion in a name, in this name, so that's why we use class name.
No, that is not the right answer. The right answer is class. The keyword class is used where to create a class, right? In class-based components. So that means this keyword is.
Yes.
So that's the reason in
Hmm.
HTML, because JSX, right? You are writing HTML inside JavaScripts, right? So
Hmm.
you can't use the class because what you said in the first question that I asked, it converts this particular HTML into an object, right?
Hmm.
So when you create something in object, that means the class keyword will be used for the class, right? So in that case, this will create confusion. So that's the reason, since
Hmm.
class is a keyword is reserved, so you don't use class. So internally, class name converts to class. Yeah, it
Hmm.
has written it. Okay. Okay. Till now we're doing good. So last question I'll ask you. Today we'll do only the question answer round. Okay. So do you know what is React Fiber?
React Fiber.
Yes.
Hmm.
Basically, you know what is reconciliation, right? The virtual DOM thing, how it
Hmm.
renders and everything. That is called reconciliation.
Yes.
React Fiber is a new reconciliation engine. That means it's a new
Yes.
reconciliation.
Hmm.
So initially what we were doing with the virtual DOM technique, that is the original one. Now what they are doing
Hmm.
for fields like animation, for a lot of, where there is game development and all those things. In that
Hmm.
case, this recon, because there are some, everything happens very fast. Like charts are there, chart engine is there, game engine is there.
Hmm.
See, you might know some game engine are there, right? Which I am not remembering rightly, but yeah, in that case, rendering happens very, very fast.
Hmm.
To do that, we have to use a new reconciliation engine that is called React Fiber.
Okay.
Okay. Got it. Someone can ask you this. Do you know what is controlled components and what is uncontrolled components? What is the difference between controlled and uncontrolled, and what it is, first of all?
Controlled and uncontrolled components.
Yes.
So, controlled and uncontrolled components. So, in React, we use states.
Hmm?
So, to re-render things and to update our data, to store our data,
Hmm.
and to make it visible in our DOM, we use states.
Okay.
So in component where we are using states, that should be the controlled component. And uncontrolled components are those components, stateless component, in which we are not using state. So, so this is a basic difference, I think.
See, I'll tell you one thing is simple. So you might be right, not completely, but controlled
Hmm.
components is the state related to state. If they are having, the control over the state, that is called control
Hmm.
component, like, okay. And uncontrolled component, they don't have the control of the state. Their state is maintained by someone else. Like dumb
Hmm.
components and stateless components, stateful components are there, right? Dumb components state is not maintained by them. Like I create a simple button, the state related to the button is not controlled by the button itself. You are passing the state from outside, right? Those
Hmm.
are called uncontrolled. And controlled means the state is in your control, like big component that we create, right? Which has
Hmm.
its own, you use state, use effect hooks to create the state and manipulate it, right? So those are called controlled
Hmm.
components. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. It was great talking to you, Krishna. We discussed only React interview questions which can be asked face to face. There can be a machine coding round also in React where you can be asked develop some component, and
Hmm.
then they will ask. So those kind of rounds also will do it. Hope you understood everything and you prepare nicely for the machine coding round also. We'll have one more session on the machine coding. Okay.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir.
Okay, Krishna. Bye. Take care.